back, everybody. It is the Working Brother back at you with another talk. Yet again, we've got Tim Kirby, Russia
Hello
Hardcore.
there.
Welcome, Tim. How you doing? It's been a while.
I'm doing good. I just like to apologize that this has taken so long. Things have been really active in my life, generally in a good way. I'm needed everywhere, but it's on some levels, man, I'm right tired.
Yeah, you've been all over the place, not only in media and traveling and whatnot, but were you at that SPIEF thing recently? Where was that?
Yes, I was. I went to the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, and I spoke at two different sessions. One was about the American village and immigration issues and all that, which I think was maybe the one that was a little bit more important. But the other one was related to tourism in Russia and how things have changed and stuff about that. The tourism one was really easy because I kind of knew what I wanted to say. There's two examples of Russian tourism that have been major successes, and I just sort of mentioned those and why they're awesome and this, that, and the other. So,
Clue us in. What tourism is working in Russia?
Oh, well, I just wanted to point out something that other people, kind of didn't think about. That's kind of, I think, my job here is trying to present things in a different way. But if you look at my the channel I do that is about travel, which on YouTube is called Tim Kirby's Travels because of a rights issue. Ironically, on Rumble, the land of the free, where they don't censor very much, on Rumble, it's still called Russia Tips, Tricks, and Travel under the old branding. Okay, so that's you can find it either there or there. But anyways, one of our video series was about the Chuya Highway, also called the Chuysky Tract, and basically it was an old road that was from like Stalin's time that they sort of plowed with bulldozers, and very slowly over time big trucks would go over it very slowly because obviously it was dangerous and not like asphalted or anything. Well, there's sort of a federal program in Russia to redo all the major highways and make them nice and like in the rest of the world, and so this is kind of the an example of, if you build it, they will come. They built this amazing highway that goes all the way through the entirety of the Altai Mountains to the border of Mongolia, high speed and all that. And so essentially I sort of said that it's sort of the perfect thing where the government built something and then next the private sector jumped on it because there's all these new little tour bases, as they're called. They're like homes for rent and cafes and all this other stuff, and plenty of places to park so you can go see all the historical and natural wonders and all that. And I said after that, the third step in the chain is kind of the people like me, who then, because this became easy to do and sort of became a little bit popular, then we popularize it, and that sort of gets the ball rolling. And this has really been, I think, a big boon for Altai tourism. The other location was a place called Teribirka, which was the horrific village featured in the film Leviathan that like won an Oscar, was Oscar nominated for something, just to kind of poo-poo on Russia. But anyways, it got the reputation of being known as the most horrible place in Russia, and therefore it became a tourist destination because people wanted to say they went to the most horrible place in Russia, which has led to them, like the local economy there was always like diving for crab and shrimp and all these other sea critters. And so they have like a luxury restaurant now where the locals like go get you your crab and then they put it on a plate for you. They have the northernmost brewery in the world, so you can get the northernmost brewed beer. I did that. They have like a new school there, and new hotels are being built for all the people who go up there to go fishing. So it's kind of an example of then the opposite of how the media created the storm. Local people kind of jumped on it, and then now the government is doing things like upgrading their schools and infrastructure for people to go to the worst place in Russia.
To get back on track with some of the topics that I've been wanting to talk to you about for a while now, I've been trying to get you since Moscow got hit the first time with the drones, but you've been so busy with your other stuff that we haven't caught up. I wanted to get your take on first the most recent drone thing that happened with the swarm of drones that wasn't even a swarm by definition. It was just a bunch of different drones sent to a bunch of different locations, and they all basically hit civilian targets.
Well, that was the ones that were supposedly oriented towards one of Putin's residences, and then we say Putin's. The president's or the president's residences, because after Putin dies, he doesn't get to give that to his kids, so it doesn't really belong to him. It's important to note these kind of things because there's a big difference between when something's your own property or when you happen to be in a position to use it. But anyways, Yeah, so most of the videos showed that they were knocked out of the sky. In fact, for example, I can tell you that all geolocation is blocked around the Kremlin and downtown. So like if you turn on your phone, you can't find anything, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of these sort of defense systems against navigation and all that. And none of those drones hit any target that could be proved to be a target because they mostly just kind of fell into like fields and stuff. So, yeah. But if you want to talk about public reactions. Pardon?
They hit apartment buildings as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the thing is, you showed some video just now of like a window being broken. Now, those are the kind of drones that are designed to sort of detonate and explode and destroy something. I didn't see any footage of anything of being like a building set on fire.
Well, you know what I mean? Not on fire, but like, yeah, there was some, I can't remember where it is here. I'm looking for it in the video as we speak live. It's, okay.
See, like that's sort of the most famous image, and that's like way out there in the field. But let's just say hypothetically,
Real Reporter. I don't know if you've come across him or know him. Maybe he's
not personally, but yeah.
He actually went down there to see and talk to people. So I was more interested in getting your take on what actually is the reaction of people in Moscow. Like, well, Russia still scared them?
I'll tell you this much. Russia's still Russian. There is no reaction. And that's kind of maybe hard for people to believe, but maybe online, but in general, life kind of goes on. Most people here don't really react to very much. And so that's part of the problem. It's very different than, say, like, well, then again, to be honest, I was going to say the American public, but the American public tends to have strong reactions to things, but doesn't really do anything. Like there tends to be some sort of like emotional outburst and then nothing happens. In Russia also nothing happens, but there's no emotional outburst.
So what you're saying is that they're reserved, basically.
Yeah, like none of this stuff has mattered. If anything, like those guys who were sort of playing dress up as the Vlasovцы, which were like the Russian guys who fought on Hitler's side in World War II, who sort of made some attacks around the Belgorod region.
The like Belgorod, I was just going to say.
Well, that got people aggravated, not because they really thought that this army of like 80 trucks could take over Russia, but because it's this revival of this Vlasovцы type of person. And, that's
the Russian term for them, huh? Vlasovцы.
Well, yeah, Vlasov was the guy who was like their leader. In fact, surprisingly, there's actually some of his speeches. The Germans did a very good job of recording his speeches. You can actually find at least one of them on YouTube. So, yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So the Russians, you're saying, are more bothered with the current situation as far as the Vlasovцы and the Belarusian incursion than they are with.
Yeah, well, no, I wouldn't say they're bothered. Now it's more just like they're sort of disgusted by it rather than maybe intimidated or afraid. If there's some sort of public outrage, it's more about why are we just sitting there? Like, get this over with. I think that could be maybe the public demand is just let's get this over with. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's get life back to normal. Let's just get this thing done, how by whatever means. I think that's maybe a little bit more of what the public sort of wants is just for this to be over with.
And do you think that's going to force Putin, as in the Russian government's hand, to, play by some kind of plan that they weren't planning on? Do you think that's going to speed up anything?
No. No, that's
the plan is as it is. What do you make of the recent revelation of this with the African delegation that came to Russia, where Putin showed the siege of Kiev to be NATO propaganda, basically?
To be essentially a myth. Well, I don't know. It depends how you look at it, because if we were to play devil's advocate for Kiev. Part of the deal that allegedly that Putin has, the original deal, was that the Russians would leave. So that does sort of make it almost sound like a siege. Like, we surround you, And if you give us what we want, then we'll leave. So that kind of does sound a little bit like, if you want to really play devil's advocate, although trust me, in the history of the world, that was a very, very soft siege, if it was. But anyways, devil's advocate time is over. I don't really think that any of the African members of this delegation were super surprised by that, because you have to remember that if there's anyone, oh my gosh, what's on my face? There's something on my eye. What is that? But anyways, sorry about that. But if we look at sort of like, African politicians, trust me, if there's anyone who they don't trust, it's the Western version of history. They've all been on the bad side of that, just like the Russians have. So I don't think any of them were probably super surprised by this. In fact, I wouldn't have even been surprised if half the people in the room were sort of partially or fully aware of this. But it's one of these things where that's where you sort of get into showmanship, and you kind of have to make this a big public thing. Because if Putin were to just release some sort of release a press release. Let's use the same word twice in a sentence and talk like an idiot. I'll do that. He releases a press release to like a TASS or, I don't know, Ruptly or whatever. It's not going to make waves. But when you have this like foreign delegation and they're from Africa, also, you have to remember, historically, does anyone give a shit what people in Africa think generally? No. So in some ways, I think that this African delegation sort of coming in as like, hey, we're going to moderate this.
This is a comedy show.
It's kind of like I would say it's a comedy show. I think it's kind of a signal, like, by the way, guys, we Africans are going to stake our claim here that we're human also, and we want to have a stake in the global course of events. So I think it was very anti-racist, which is nice. Anyways, besides that, I think that was sort of the right time where it came across nice. People's eyes were on this event, and it kind of coincided with the economic forum, which put more eyes on Russia. So I think there's an element of showmanship here that can't be denied. But I don't mind that, because that's one thing I criticize Russia for all the time, is they're really shit at relaying their messages and what they're thinking. And so this time they did a good job. Almost 10 years too late.
Hey, better late than never. You know what they say about the Russians? Like with the army and with everything else, they're slow to saddle up, but once they get riding, they know how to ride.
Oh, that is true. That is true, dude. What you just said. Hold on, we got to break that down. That is how everything in Russia works. It's like in the army, there's hurry and wait, but in Russia, it's wait then hurry. Everything.
What's the name of that? What's the name of that meme?
Zhdun. Yeah, the weird ant monster thing. Because it became a meme because it looks like it's waiting around. Well, yeah, because, dude, that's how everything is slow as molasses in Russia. And then all of a sudden, something will happen, and now it's time to do it. It's time to do it. So this thing of like where like people like Colonel Douglas McGregor are saying that like the Russian army that entered the war is nothing in compared to the army that Russia has now. And that sounds probably nuts, or like he's some sort of paid shill or something. But that is exactly in line with the way that Russians do things. It's, we don't fix anything. We don't worry about anything. Oh, now there's a crisis. Let's fix it. There he is. There's Zhdun. So Zhdat is wait. That's where it comes from.
Wait, as in to wait for something to happen, not to be the waiter. So he's not the waiter at the table.
Yeah, in that sense. Well, the problem is I don't know, probably like in Serbian, you guys probably also have two verbs for everything. So Zhdat is like the waiting that's continuous with no end, and Podождать is to wait for one specific thing. Do you guys also have that?
In a way, yes, but we also have, because of the background, we have loan words and stuff like that from many different languages, like from German, from French, from Greek, from whatever. So like there's a for every expression basically it's a very rich language is what I'm getting at. It's a very rich language, Serbian. Getting back to SPIEF, or St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Did you go there last year? Or have you been there before?
No, unfortunately, I guess this year, this whole American Village thing has kind of restoked the fire of my fame within Russia. And so this year, like I said, I was invited to two sections, which is like a super mega honor, only kind of top tier people. Oh, by the way, that's if you want to support the village, that's the Boosty page. Boosty's like Patreon, but international because it's in Hong Kong or something. So if you want to donate to that, because there's a lot of paperwork involved and someone's got to pay for it. And so far that someone has been me. So,
and don't forget that you can also sign up to the Patreon of the Working Brother if you like what you're seeing true. Here.
Yeah, well, you guys are still connected to the West. Enjoy it. Patreon works for you, not for me.
Hey, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how long we'll stay connected. While I was searching for some background visuals for the American Village, I came across this Russian propaganda article calling it a migrant village. I love the fact that it's called a migrant village.
Well, you know what? Sometimes, as someone who's associated with RT, I can say that I sometimes have some criticisms for what some of my fellow coworkers do, including the use of the term far right for people who happen to vote for Trump. There are certain and also criticisms of American gun violence is at some sort of all-time net. Well, it doesn't matter. So I don't know. There are certain things where I kind of wish we would adjust some of our wording, but we'll put that in the category of c'est la vie.
Or to-do list once the ball gets rolling.
I don't know, man. One thing is that's never going to change is remember, journalism is made by the people who make it, and the people who are journalists who write for most of Moscow websites are basically little Sarah Jessica Parkers. They're all 20 to 40 years old, no kids. That single white woman with her wine and her getting drunk on Friday with their friends and zero responsibilities and all that shit. So
Sarah Jessica Parker. Oh,
sorry, man.
It took me a while to get it. It took me a while to get it, and then I was like, Sex in the City. Yeah.
So that's kind of one of these things where I'm sure the person, whoever wrote that, was probably like, the migrants, living in the country. Ew, gross. Not living in a city, you freaks.
Meanwhile, this is you with a fellow American.
Joe Rose.
This is the land where it's going to be the village, right?
Yeah. This is a part of it. It is a huge territory. So,
and what kind of numbers of people are you looking for or expecting?
Well, we've redrawn the map a few times, so people might want to lead to conspiracy theories of he said a different number last time, he's lying. As it currently stands. But then again, we're drawing the plan for the final plan that we have to submit to the government. We're drawing that right now. But the plan that I drew based on my amazing Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator skills had 160 plots of land, so 160 houses. So 160 families. However, that may, maybe I was a little too optimistic with my land. Maybe I was too pessimistic. But definitely, I would say roughly it has to be over 100. Anywhere from 100 to 200. We'll see when the final plan actually gets drawn, how many people are there. Another thing is that I've kind of been now the village really wasn't supposed to be talked about yet. It was never a secret because secrets are bad. Secrets imply that you're doing something shady. It never, ever was a secret. Okay. But it kind of slipped out at the last, I think, St. Petersburg event of its existence by accident. And it caused a fury. And that's where that RT article came from. Because if you notice the date on the article, it's from before this last economic forum. So because of that, our sort of PR thing came out of the bag a bit too early, because people are like, we have to go see the village. It's a field. We're still in the process of getting all the permits, changing the zoning, or as they call it in Russian, the status of the land. This is a whole big nightmare, but we'll eventually do it. But at least with the cat being let out of the bag, we found people who also have some sort of plots of land that they want to donate, who want to work with us. The guy who's drawing the general plan for the village. For example, if the cat would have been let out of the bag, I would have never met this guy because he has actually drawn plans that have been accepted by the Moscow regional government in the past. And he's willing to work for, I'll do it now, pay me later, which is very gracious.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
that's
don't have
always
the
good.
money. I don't have the money to pay a guy. 'Cause, dude, like when you talk about drawing the general plan for this kind of stuff, you're talking like because one thing is generally stuff in Russia is cheap. Not apparently drawing a general plan for some sort of real estate development. That's like $10,000 or something. So hopefully, maybe less, maybe more like 5,000 or 6,000. But anyways, it's a question of thousands of dollars, which I don't have. So we'll have to pay him back slowly over time. But he said he didn't mind, so he likes the
but
idea.
he believes in the idea. That's what you basically need. You
Oh yeah,
allowed yourself
dude, a lot of awesome people have come forward. We just had a guy who was a Russian guy who apparently left Russia during the 90s for obvious reasons, became like a timber expert in America. But then when things got bad in America, he moved back, which is the classic tale of Russia. And so he's like, dude, we're going to give you the best prices on wood you've ever seen. And we've had like the Ministry of Machine building or something, however you want to translate it. They kind of wanted me to put me in contact with people who can make 3D homes. 3D actually saves a lot of money. It really does. So the homes might be made out of 3D. They might not. I'm not really sure yet.
I saw you post about that a couple of weeks ago, and I was gonna spam you, but I didn't want to. You remember
about 3D homes being fake and terrible or amazing in the future?
Being amazing. I told you about that long before I even became the working brother. If you remember, I brought it up long ago in one of your streams.
Well, yeah, they definitely have some advantages, man. They definitely do, and I got a good quote from them, and the quote looked really good. So 3D, it's very possible that we'll do the village in 3D, but I think the main thing is we're going to design the general plan of the village still to have some flexibility because things change, times change. I've been told that a lot of the cement is going to the front. So they quoted me on this amazing price from the 3D people, but it doesn't seem possible if cement is expensive right now. So I don't know. We're gonna wait. This is a thing with the whole tender process. We got to find out who's going to win the tender. You know.
Wait. No, you can't say the cement is going to the front and not elaborate. What do you mean? Like for Mariupol?
Well, there's obviously they're rebuilding a lot of stuff. I'm actually kind of surprised that they bothered. Well, I'll put it this way: that was a sign of confidence that they're rebuilding Mariupol, and essentially they're rebuilding everything that they feel is sort of out of artillery range for Ukraine. That they're that confident that they're not going to have to make a major retreat and fall back and risk that stuff being blown up again. You know what I mean? So that's definitely a sign of, if you want to take the political context of it. But yeah, a lot of it's going to Mariupol, but also remember all those dragon's teeth and fortifications and all that stuff all requires concrete, cement, and all those other wonders of the ground. So people have told me that, well, basically when I initially came up with the dream for the village, I wanted to make it out of cinder blocks because cinder block homes, whenever you're in one in Russia, you're always like, wow, it is nice in here. There's something about the cinder blocks where they're really, really thick and they create this nice heat barrier. And so they're very good at maintaining heat, but at the same time, they don't feel artificial. Like you don't feel like you're in this weird plastic box. The home is very comfortable to be in. They're kind of not that hard to work with. Obviously they're heavy, but you can saw them with like a hand saw. So they're actually sort of hard yet soft. Hard enough that you stack them up and build a huge house, but soft enough you can cut them with a saw with your hand, which is crazy. They offer a lot of benefits, but apparently now it's like, but obviously between each of the blocks you have to have your mortar and all that stuff, and that the prices of that have all gone up because of the war. And so it's looking like my cinder block fantasies are basically going to remain fantasies. I was actually asked to talk about tourism at the Economic Forum by basically an organization that funds large regional projects. And so after I was done, even before I looked at who they were, I'm like, who's inviting me? I am not that lazy as to not open a website to find out who's inviting me to an event. But then later I was kind of like, you guys are kind of happy with what I had to say. About funding regionally significant projects? I got one of those. So tomorrow they're going to get back to me because if they could actually possibly put the money down and fund this, then maybe we can do cinder blocks. Because remember, dude, I am not going to, because I am going to be living in the village with everyone else. Okay. Obviously I have a media career. I have kids that are going to be in various different locations. So I can't be there like 7 days a week, but I'm definitely going to be there at least half the time. And I am not going to build I'm going to build all the houses to the same standard, unless people want to like get their own contractor and stuff. Again, that's one of these things about freedom. If someone really wants to go to a foreign country in a language they don't speak and seek out a contractor because they must have their house built a certain way, go nuts. But of all the houses that'll be sort of through the person who wins our tender, I'll be living in the same standards as everyone else.
Maybe you can have like 2-3 variations on a design, like a 1, 2, and a 3 bedroom.
Yeah,
I
already drew one up. I found. Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to not forget to say this, but I was looking online at Russian architectural plans, like and I found this really, really good one. It's basically like a big rectangle, single story, 150 square meters. And I sort of rearranged it a little bit on my own computer. And I kind of made a version where essentially there's a line where you can have a 100 square meter home, and then you just extend it a little bit more for 150. And they're essentially the same layout, just more bedrooms. So we're probably going to go with that kind of type of design there. There might also be the need for a smaller home. But again, I don't quite see super purpose in that. For what reason? Because if you build a lot of tiny homes based on your current needs, well, we want to have people have families in Russia, and maybe for old people we can have an old people option, which is small, but still you kind of want to have something where you're an elderly couple and you're living in a tiny house. Awesome. Well, what if your nephew is like, dude, I got to get out of America, man. The government threatened to take my kid and chop off his wiener, it sounds insane, but that's literally like what's happening now. And then all of a sudden, these people are in a crisis where they're living in a tiny house, and now their nephew and his kid and maybe his wife and the other kid are there. And it's like, man, in Russia, putting an extension on your house is easy, but it's one of the reasons why I really tiny houses are considered 36 square meters or less, and I really don't think that we should build tiny houses. With the only exception is one guy said he was willing to finance some tiny houses as like a temporary living thing. So like say a family needs to go to Russia, but they have sort of nowhere to go and they haven't like established themselves, he'd let them sort of stay at his tiny house cluster on his territory. So there might be an exception to that, but overall we really shouldn't
like
be
bungalows?
building anything.
What about, because you're planning to make this like an American village, right? As in like the theme is going to be, you're naming the streets, English names and whatnot.
Well, yeah,
so
we want to. Yeah,
right.
Unfortunately,
you want to make it like a piece of the Northwest, right?
I think it's going to be out of my own egocentric worldview. It's going to be modeled a little bit after Ohio, but again, it really depends on the technology. Because if we do go 3D, 3D homes do not look like homes in Ohio. They just don't. Even if you go on the outside and you get your oh my God, what's that called? The thing that you scrape with. You take your stucco and you scrape it. What the hell is that thing called? Anyways,
I have no idea. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So,
Smirgla
anyways,
in Serbian, I think.
Yeah. So you grab that whatever metal thing is, and you smooth out your home, and it's still not going to have like these sharp edges. It's going to look some kind of I guess stuccoed homes are more like a California thing, or at least in my mind, that's how I kind of see it. And but then again, you're going to have a California thing in this like frozen forest. So again, the thing is that we have the choice of having aesthetics or effectiveness. And when this is about people who are supposedly fleeing tyranny, or at least so they tell me, then we're really going to have this thing be focused more on being functional rather than having this cutesy like Midwestern design elements. Now, if we were to say use the services of a certain individual who offered also a very good price and make basically like the sort of stick frame homes that we have in the Midwest, only bigger, because in Russia you can't have a 4-inch stick frame home. Minimum 6 inches. I think we're going to go with an 8-inch stick frame home, the real fortress style. But anyways, if we were to make homes like that, then obviously it would be easy to make them look very Midwestern and American, because that construction method is the default construction method in the Midwest. Only the walls are going to be much more beefy, but you won't see that from the outside. So
but you're gonna need, for like a village, you're gonna need more than like just streets and houses and people. What about a school and shops and stuff like that? Have you thought about that side of the development?
Oh yeah. Oh dude, yeah. That was again another thing from the very beginning. One thing that's very frustrating is having Russian people comment on this, because they'll always be like, well, like the thing that drives me the nuts. Why'd you put it there? Why'd you pick Serpukhov County? They couldn't maybe sit down and philosophize as to maybe some potential reasons. Well, maybe it's because I already own a house within driving distance, and because no matter what, I want to oversee the project and I'm there. They can't seem to understand that. So with a lot of things, some people are also baffled. They hear about the village and they're like, why have you not even thought about shopping and electricity? You haven't thought about anything. Yes, I have, from the very fucking moment when I did this. From the fucking first moment, the neurons in my brain were like, okay, how are people going to get?
Let's put it this way: I didn't doubt that you. I didn't doubt that you thought about it. I just wanted to bring it up.
Hold on. Your question was not that type of question, but it was flavored in the same way. I just want to express to you what it's like living in Russia, and as they say, there's an expression in Russian, "strana sovetnikov." Because the Soviet Union was Strana Sovetov, the nation of councils. So when we have this expression, the nation of counselors, because everyone wants to tell you what to do. And man, my working brother, holy shit. Over the last 2 years, have I gotten so many genius recommendations from Genius Ivan, who works for minimum wage in some kind of a one-room apartment that he inherited from his grandmother. Holy crap, man. So I'm fired up here. But anyways, of course, from a long time ago, the ladies, the wives of some of the people who are definitely want to be part of the village came up with this concept that I think is awesome. They really like the idea that in Russia there's homeschooling, but can you do a big homeschool? And a homeschool for a community. And so thus far, we want to build like a community center that's going to have a little bit of what people would call co-working space, which is such an awful, trendy word that I hate. We'll just call it public space if you want to do something workish. Okay, there you go.
Co-working space in the communist socialist sense, not in the liberal capitalist sense, right?
Yeah, like how they'll have like in some of these co-working spaces, they'll have like a private room where you can go to discuss something without, and they'll call it a breakout space. You will never be as vomit induced when you see it written in Cyrillic, breakout space. Yeah, what, you know what I mean? Like that shit. Get that shit the fuck out of here. So anyway,
basically like a communal center that can be used for many different things and has different.
Yeah, and of course, communal center. And of course, I'm thinking that should probably be 2 stories because it needs to be big. But one story could be a school, but heck, both stories could be a school. And with that public space, that would allow some of the local moms to essentially provide the children a homeschooling environment. And since they're all foreign children, essentially, that also means that it would provide a public place where some local Russian teachers could go to provide them with the necessary Russian language skills that they need to pass their, tests and graduate from high school and all that other good fun stuff.
So basically what you're telling me is that homeschooling is not only an option, it is highly
highly
solution in that case.
Yeah. Yes, it is highly likely to be the default solution because it just seems to work for everyone. The fact that in Russia homeschooling is not only legal but encouraged and is broadly accepted is one of the major reasons why people want to move here. It's actually very rare.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was that. Let's say promoted by the government.
Yeah, it is. So
that's refreshing. Yeah, because that leaves a lot of leeway for parents who are tired of the system. Let's put it that way.
In terms of other public buildings, one of the other problems about verbiage is I say I want to build a church, but apparently an Eastern Orthodox church has to meet certain standards, and whatever we build is not going to meet the standards of being a church because it'll be too small. So it'll be some sort of Orthodox place of gathering. I don't know what you'd want to call it. There's that, and of course, because when you are involved in the Eastern European Super League of American football. We're going to have the only dedicated American football field in Russia. All the lines permanently, the goalposts bright yellow instead of that disgusting European white, bright American yellow behind the end zones there. So that'll be nice. We're also probably actually the guy who's doing the planning really made a good argument as we might need a sort of mass storage space. Particularly if some people are going to have tractors or they might want to buy building materials to build something and there's a place to keep them. So there's probably going to be a storage facility. And at some point, as the population increases, I do think that there will eventually be some kind of grocery store, be it one of the people in the village starts a grocery store on their own property or on the main road, or whether it be some sort of chain grocery store.
All right. Is there anything that we haven't touched upon that you would like to draw people's attention to before we close this out?
No, just the other thing is go look on Telegram. I don't even remember what it's called myself because I'm a terrible person at promotion. Let's see. What is my own Telegram channel called? Not Tim Kirby or Hardcore. It's American Villages in Russia, Serpukhov/Serpukhov. Unfortunately, the way it's written in English is not the way it's pronounced. But anyways, go to that. American Villages in Russia, Serpukhov. That is the actual channel. And you can see there's a video pinned up there called Q&A Part 1. And that was a 1 hour and 20-minute discussion that answers every question you could possibly have about the American Village. And question number 1 is, do you have to be American to participate? No, you have to be a native English speaker. But don't worry, there already is a German village being built in Russia around Nizhny Novgorod if you're a German speaker. Real? And I just met with a large group of Dutch people who want to do something similar. However, the location for them has not been picked.
Interesting. It's good that I asked you that question. I'll definitely leave a link to that other Telegram group in the description of this video. Tim,
fantastic.
Thank you for the update. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Stay safe, and we'll stay in touch. Everyone, like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. We're out.